Hi everybody, it is Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a controversial book review for In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I know this was beloved last year. I saw a lot of videos, a lot of posts praising this book to the high heavens. That wasn't my experience, so I'm just going to warn you now that you're probably not going to agree with the things in this video. And there will also be a few spoilers in here, so be aware of that. I will try to hold off on those to the end and notify you when I'm heading into the spoiler section, so you can choose whether or not you want to continue. But I need to talk about this more in depth. So I read this for my Reading 3 Thriller vlog, and that video's already been posted, so if you watched that, you already know that I didn't like this. But I didn't want to give too much away in that. So here we go. I'm going to give you more reasons as to why now. In this book, we follow our main character, Jessica Miller, who has received an invitation from her college for the 10-year anniversary reunion. So she goes to this, and what you need to know about Jessica is she is extremely narcissistic, extremely conceited, stuck up. She thinks she's perfect. She's striving to be perfect. If something about her is not perfect, then she just beats herself up. And it's to an annoying level. It's like, we have unlikable characters in tons of books, but this one takes it from here to here. And she is just so full on herself that it's just nonstop. She is nonstop about her perfect hair, her perfect teeth, her fantasies of how people are going to react when they see her. And she really thinks that she's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it drives me up a wall. It really does. I don't think I would have minded it nearly as much in a side character, but being in her head in this thing, the majority of this book is through her perspective. In her head, this is what we hear a lot of, is how perfect she is and how people are like taking things away from her that she deserves more, and because she's the perfect one and all of this crap. And it's just, it's so vile and disgusting, and I just cannot deal. So we find out relatively early on that one of her friends in school, Heather, was murdered in college. I believe it was in senior year. And another one of their friends was accused, but he was ultimately released because there was not enough evidence to hold him. And everybody in the group still believes that he did it, so he has been ostracized. Jessica actually does not believe that he did it. I would give her credit on this. It's like she actually does not believe he did anything. She remains friends with him. But she does it in secret. She doesn't want anybody else to know, and that I don't like. It's like it takes away the positive and turns it into a negative, and it's just disgusting. So we get to this reunion, and everybody's just as bad as Jessica. Maybe not just as bad, but everybody's pretty bad. Everybody is stabbing somebody else in the back. Everybody has like a very vile personality and are incredibly selfish, and it's just kind of exhausting keeping up with who did what to who. And it just really, really starts to drive me insane. The characters themselves, while they are extremely unlikable and they are just horrible, horrible people, they're well written. I honestly do feel like this was the intention. I feel like you're supposed to feel this way about these characters, but it drove me too crazy because I didn't really have anybody that I could root for. I didn't like any of the characters. It's like, I gotta have somebody that I can be in their corner, you know, but I didn't care about what anybody was doing because they were all awful. And so to me, that means that I don't really care what the outcome is, because like, it doesn't really matter. because everybody deserves what's coming to them. And so they're well written and they're well rounded, but I just didn't have anybody that I could latch on to. I am a very character driven person. For me, it doesn't matter how well the book is written. It doesn't matter what the plot is, if it's unique, if I've read it before. If it does not have good characters that I can get behind and that I can feel for, that I can empathize with, then I'm not going to get into that book. And that was definitely the case here. Like, I can acknowledge they were well written and that they were doing what they were supposed to do, but like, I wouldn't be friends with any one of these people, so I really didn't care what the outcome was. We get to this reunion, and Heather's brother Eric is like part of the reunion committee, I think. He works at the school in some capacity. I don't remember how. But he starts to interrogate this group because he has been following the case really, really closely. He has been into reports, and he has found out stuff about each of our friends that they don't even know about each other. And so he's starting to interrogate everybody about things that they did. And I got the impression that he knew who the culprit was from the beginning, but he wanted to turn everybody against each other. And I can't really blame him because it's like, they all did awful things to each other. He's just exposing it, But I really got the impression that he already knew because he knew so many details that nobody else knew. And he knew things about each person that they didn't know that anybody else knew. It was crazy in that regard. And I did enjoy that because it's like, he was toying with them and he was exposing them and they deserved it. So I didn't feel bad for them. I still think that he had a horrible attitude. I'm not saying he was my favorite character. He had a horrible attitude, but it was justified, I feel. So all of these secrets start to come out about everybody and all these things that have started to go down, and they start turning against each other more because now they're trying to protect secrets that are 10 plus years old. And it's so drama. It is so much drama. And so now I am going to turn into the spoiler territory because this was the make it or break it section for me. And so I have to go into it in more detail. So I will put a spoiler alert on the screen for you. So as all of these secrets are getting revealed and unveiled, and everybody's learning everything about everybody else, we come to discover that Jessica's boyfriend from college, Mint, was the person that killed Heather. But he didn't mean to. He thought she was Jessica, which meant he was trying to kill his girlfriend. He didn't turn on the lights when he went inside, and Heather was asleep in Jessica's bed. So it stands to reason he thought that it was Jessica. So it being Heather it really was an accident. And I did not mind the villain choice. I actually kind of liked the build-up to the reveal of that because it did actually have some tension and it was pushing up. And I didn't mind this. I didn't feel like he had a stupid motive. Obviously, it is wrong to do this to another human being, but I feel like he had good reason. So he had found out that Jessica was sleeping with a professor for a recommendation letter. And he was humiliated because his mother had cheated on his father. And his father didn't do anything about it. He didn't leave her. He begged her to stay with him, actually. And it's like everybody in their friend group and in their circle made fun of him because he was humiliated in such a level and he didn't even care. And Mint had always said he would never put up with that. So I get being totally humiliated. I get that, and he had a very, very good reason for being angry at her. So, yeah, he wants to confront her. He actually didn't go in there with the intent to unalive her. He wanted to confront her. He wanted her to beg him for forgiveness, so that like the tables would be turned, like be the opposite situation from his parents. Um, he wanted her to beg him for forgiveness and him to not forgive her anyway. So, but when he went in and he was like talking at Heather, confronting Jessica, but it's Heather, and Heather is drugged, so she can't really respond. He is just angered more and more and more that she is ignoring him, and he snaps. So, that is what actually happened. That wasn't the intent. So it doesn't make what he did okay, but I understood the anger. I understood where he was coming from. And it did make me feel a little bit better that he didn't premeditate it. Like he just snapped and it just happened. He still should have gone to the police. He should have turned himself in. He should have said it was an accident, something. But he didn't. So he's still a villain, right? And honestly, like Jessica doing something like this that would push him to this point, like I said, she is a horrible character. She's a horrible person. So her doing something like this was plausible to me. I was just like, yeah, that's totally something that she would do. And he has a right to be upset. However, what I feel like kind of made this stupid was we find out that after Heather dies, he stays with Jessica for like another 2 years or something. And he never told her that he knew about the professor. He never told her. So I'm like, you went through all of that because you wanted to confront her, and then you don't confront her. And when he finally breaks up with her, he tells her that it's because he is in love with Courtney, who is another friend of theirs from college, who he cheated on her in college with Courtney. So I'm like, you were angry enough to kill over her cheating, but it was okay for you to do it. I get being upset, but that's a hypocritical thing right there. That's hypocritical. If you're doing it to her, you have no room to be mad. I am sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe that is just me, but I'm like, if you're doing it yourself, you cannot say anything. It's just, oh my God, it's nasty. It's just, ooh, horrible, horrible, horrible. So, in the midst of all of this, we find out that the professor thing wasn't what everybody thought that it was. There was an incident with her professor. She asked him innocently for a recommendation letter for a fellowship program. And he says he wants to take her out to dinner, and then he wants to take her back to his place, and he basically makes her commit acts on him. And she finds out that he totally used her, and he did write her a letter, but it was like bare basics. It was like almost like a copy and paste type thing. There was no personalization to it. There was nothing endearing that would actually make her get this position. So she really felt extremely violated. And so it's like, this wasn't like it was an ongoing affair. It was a one-time thing she did out of desperation because she thought that it was going to get her ahead in life. And he phoned it in. He was just basically like, oh, I recommend Jessica Miller for the fellowship because she has A's. There was nothing like really remarkable about this letter. And so I started to feel bad for her in that, because I'm like, I don't like her character, and I don't it doesn't matter who the person is or what the situation is. Something like that is not okay. And this guy is reprehensible. So, and she did go to her friend. She went to her friend about this and told, and she was devastated. So, I mean, it's like this was an assault, and it wasn't an affair; it was an assault. And maybe the whole thing could have been mitigated if she had gone to her boyfriend, been like, "Hey, this happened," and he wouldn't have been angry at her and do something to Heather. It's like if he had just known right off the bat that, hey, this professor took advantage of her and did something to her, he would have been mad at the professor and not her. So maybe she should have gone to him instead of her friend, but she didn't. And so I started to feel really, really bad for her. And then we find out that it's like her memories are starting to come back to her. She had spent 10 years thinking she had done something to Heather because she had blacked out that night. And we finally find out the reason why. And the reason that she was like, has chunks of her memory missing is when she found out that Heather won the fellowship. And that was actually what happened. Heather won the fellowship that Jessica wanted. And she was devastated, and she took a bunch of pills, and then she drank on top of it. It didn't mix well in her system. And then she went and broke into the administration's office to steal the recommendation letters to compare them. And she was hoping that if Heather's disappeared, that it would go to the runner-up, which she just assumed would be her. And she wasn't even the runner-up. But she was just so devastated because Heather's recommendation letter from the same professor was glowing, talking about like all of her services, and like you could tell that he really thought that she deserved it. And then hers was like a 2-paragraph generic kind of little thing. And she was just completely devastated. And Heather died that same night. So because she was angry at Heather because of the fellowship, and she knew about the letters, she remembered that. She was terrified that she had done something, so she spent all these years harboring this guilt. And so I really, really did start to feel bad for her. I'm like, okay, she is taken advantage of in the worst way. She found out in a devastating way, and then her friend dies, and she's thinking, did I do something because I was so out of it? So, I mean, as much as I didn't like Jessica, I was really, really starting to feel for her a lot. And then, like, the last 2 pages, it, like, invalidated it. I hate that. I hate when authors pull a quick one, like in the last couple of pages like that, and it just... We find out that Jessica came home, and she found Heather, but Heather was alive. She was barely alive. She was barely clinging to life, but she was alive. And she asked Jessica to help her. She's like, please help me. And Jessica tells her, of course, I'm going to go get help. I'm going to go get help. And instead of going to the security in their building or calling the police, she just walked out the door and walked away. And her inner monologue was along the lines of, Heather always gets the things that I deserve, that I want. And sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing. And the problem will resolve itself. So she's basically saying, if I leave her to die, then she's never going to take anything that I want ever again. Like, I felt sorry for her. And then it's like, yeah, she might not have literally been the one to attack her, but she literally left her to die because she gets the things that I deserve, that I want, because she won the fellowship. What? That's a good enough reason? So it's like she harbored all this guilt for all these years. I'm like, good, you should have. You left her to die. Like, what? I wanted to throw this book across the room so hard because it took me so long to get into it, and then I was finally starting to enjoy it with the build up to the culprit reveal with Mint, and then we find out what happened to Jessica, what really happened to Jessica rather than what he thought happened, and then that happens, and I'm like, are you kidding me? These characters were horrible, and I can't believe I read this entire book just to find out that her main character left her best friend to die because she won a fellowship. She didn't even do anything bad to her. Nothing. She didn't do anything. She got into the fellowship. She got the fellowship that Jessica wanted, and she got into the sorority that Jessica wanted to get into. That was it. It's not like she stole her boyfriend or, did anything really, really nasty. Those were literally the only two things. She got into the sorority and she won the fellowship. I just could not get on board with this. It was just nasty. Nasty, nasty, nasty. I can't even begin to tell you. I do think that I would like something else from Ashley Winstead a little bit more. Because her writing style was good. Like, it was written well, and like, I totally got the intention that the hate that I felt for these characters was intention. Well, it was completely intentional. But it was to a level that it hindered my enjoyment of the book. So I think I might like something else more. But yeah, this was not my jam. I really don't see why everybody was so in love with it. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm sorry if I offended you. I'm not trying to bash anybody that loves this book. We all have different reading tastes, and reading is completely objective. And so if you love this, you do you. You do you. Like, I have nothing against you. I still love you. But I personally didn't. And I wish I had the same experience that everybody else did. Because it really did seem like a lot of people loved this, but it just wasn't my experience personally. And I'm kind of disappointed in that. Alright, so that is all that I have for you guys today. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, follow me on the social medias, click that bell if you want to be notified of all of my upcoming videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.